In January of this year, President of the United States Barack Obama delivered his State of Union address, marking the halfway point of his second term of his presidency. And as America's Finest news source explains, many individuals had incredibly low expectations of the State of Union address. But they were pleased with not only what Obama had to say, but with Obama as well, as his approval ratings were incredibly increased. The fact is, these individuals were so impressed with Obama that they didn't even mind the fact that he didn't pay for their commute to the White House, which is apparently something that's happened in years past. And what this shows is that Obama is not only continuing to establish a positive approval rating, but he's also leaving some pretty big shoes to fill for potential 2016 presidential candidates and those who are looking to run for office in the future. People must consider the movements that he's making as president and look to those as ways to earn the presidency for themselves. This begs the question, has Obama's presidency been considered successful? And our answer is yes, because he's been able to pass his major goals as president. This is first evident in that he's been able to pass marriage equality. Second, because of our foreign relationship with Cuba. And finally, because of the fact that he's been able to continue to establish the Affordable Care Act in the United States. Since its institution, many individuals doubted that they would ever have legitimacy and rights in the United States. As Al Jazeera explains on April 29th of 2015, that when the Supreme Court of the United States explained that they would be further debating marriage equality, many LGBTQ citizens rushed to the polls and the front lines to see what would actually happen for their rights. This is the first reason why Obama has been considered a success, because he's been able to pass marriage equality in spite of all the flack that has been thrown at this regime. Perkins explains on June 29th of 2015 that the Obergefell v. Hodges Supreme Court case fell down to the ruling of Justice Kennedy, who was the 5-4 ruling in favor of marriage equality. Many individuals doubted that this would actually pass because of the fact that it has failed in so many years before. But although this has passed, it is clear to Obama and many other individuals that this is not the last thing that they must do for LGBTQ rights. The Economist explains on July 3rd of 2015 that many LGBTQ individuals are jockeying for position in the United States, wondering where it is appropriate for them to express themselves. This is an issue, because you should be able to express yourself according to the First Amendment through freedom of speech anywhere in the United States. And because Obama recognizes this fault in his institution of the United States and in our social structure, he's continuing to advocate for these individuals, thus rendering him incredibly successful in that he's been able to change the lives of an entire demographic group, and he's continuing to do so by advocating for them. This is a huge strike in favor of Obama's success. Additionally, if you had told individuals in the United States in 1950 that we would have a good relationship with Cuba, they would have laughed in your face. With Red Scare and communism on the rise, and people terrified for their lives that the Cubans would come over and ruin their communist views on us, it is incredible that Obama has been able to pass this piece of foreign policy and lift the Cuban embargo. This is the second reason why Obama is considered a success as a president, because no other president has been able to establish such a positive relationship with Cuba. The Christian Science Monitor explains on May 29th of 2015 that this is the first time in decades that Cuba has not been on the horizon as a threat to the United States or as a foe of the United States. And as it explains, the New York Times shows on July 7th of 2015 that many individuals, including Jeb Bush, have threatened to close the Cuban embassy, or the United States embassy to Cuba, because of this ruling. But regardless, in spite of all the flack, Obama's been able to establish a positive relationship with Cuba. And Brookings explains on July 2nd of 2015 that not only are Cubans getting access to Starbucks and McDonald's, things that Americans love, but also the internet and things that are further keeping them, or were keeping them, from becoming integrated into the developed society. Things that Americans often take for granted. Because Obama is going and advocating for these individuals and creating a positive relationship with Cuba, it is clear that this is a huge strike in favor of his efficacy as a president. He is successful in his terms. And finally, the infamous Affordable Care Act must be considered whenever talking about Obama. As CNN explains on June 25th of 2015, that the 6-3 ruling of the Supreme Court in favor of the Affordable Care Act is going to characterize Obama's legacy in many years to come. This is also going to be difficult for any other president to live up to. But it's the third and final reason why Obama is considered successful as a president, because of how much flack has been thrown towards this piece of legislation. It's explained by Forbes on July 7th of 2015 that many individuals have doubted the Affordable Care Act because of the fact that the money that has been charged towards individuals who don't abide by it is clearly not enough to keep other people, including the middle class and the upper classes in socioeconomic terms, from going and looking to other healthcare providers for healthcare, such as Aetna and Blue Cross. But as the Los Angeles Times explains on July 2nd of 2015, there are other underlying pieces to Obama's legislation that have been unaddressed by many of the Supreme Court rulings. Part of this is because he's looking to decrease the competition amongst healthcare providers. But the fact is, because he's been able to go against these pieces of evidence against the Affordable Care Act and continue to have it prevail in the United States, providing healthcare for millions, it is clear that Obama is an effective politician and effective at advocating for people. Thus, another strike in favor of his presidency's effectiveness, or success, rather. So when asking the question, can Obama be considered a successful president? Our answer is yes, because he's been able to go against the flow and pass many things that other presidents have been able to pass. This is first considering marriage equality, second our relationship with Cuba, and finally concerning the relationship we have with the Affordable Care Act, and that he's been able to further implement it. And so while Obama's approval ratings are still rising, people have low expectations of him. But it's clear that he's going to oppose these, and that he's going to continue to be successful as president throughout the end of his second term.